Alright, so welcome back to Dominion Empires Part 4. So let's continue where we left off. So next we have Villa, and this one, it costs 4 money, and so we have 3 here that cost 4 treasure. Villa, Temple, and Sacrifice. So Villa, you're going to get 2 actions, you're going to get a buy, and you're going to get a treasure. But what makes this really interesting is what you do with this card. So when you gain this, you'll put it into your hand, and then you'll get +1 action, and then if it's your buy phase, you'll return to your action phase. So that's kind of a wonky card because you'll get an additional action when you buy this, and then you're going to go back to your action phase, and you'll get to play another action card if you have it. Meaning, you could play this, for instance, and you'd get 2 more actions, you get a buy, and you get an extra treasure. I guess what makes this really powerful is if you had another action card in your hand that you weren't able to play, that's going to give you some extra money, for instance, like maybe Gladiator, which is going to give you some extra money. You had 2 Gladiators in play. You played one of them. You had enough money to buy this. You buy this. You go back to your action phase. You play this. You get another buy, meaning you can still buy another card. You get some more treasure, 1 more treasure. Then you play a Gladiator. That's 2 more treasure. So now you have 3 extra treasure and a buy. You could buy a silver or something like that. So that is kind of an interesting way of getting to play your action cards as well as getting to buy another card and get some more money. But it's wonky, and most of the time when you get this, because you'll just get it for the +2 actions, most likely. Most of the time, especially if this is the only card that gives you actions like that, most of the time, you won't really get much out of the additional playing of this card. But potentially you could. Then we have the Temple, and this is another one of those gathering piles. So you'll get a victory token when you play this. Then you will trash 1 to 3 differently named cards from your hand. And then you will add 1 victory token to the Temple supply pile. Hence, you'll get another one of these, for instance. This is a 2 victory token here, and this is a 1. And so then when you gain this, you'll take all the victory tokens from the Temple supply pile. So after you play this, if you were to buy this again, you'd get the victory token as well as the Temple. Or you could just keep getting some victory tokens on here, and the next time somebody buys a Temple, they're also going to get the victory tokens. So that's something to note, that you're helping your opponents out when you buy this, because when you play this, because if you decide not to buy it, then they have the option of buying it themselves, especially if they didn't buy the Temple yet, and they'll get a victory token out of the deal. But if you buy too many of these, you could be clogging up your deck as well. Although, since you trash cards with this card, you could just simply trash a Temple from your hand as well. Is that worth it? Maybe. Who knows? But you can't trash 2 of the same card with this card. You can only trash 1 differently named card up to 3. But most likely, I usually only trash 1 card at a time anyways. Most of the time, I don't have a copper and an estate, or I decide I want to hold on to my copper at that moment because I don't have very many silvers or something like that. But, you could potentially get rid of a copper and an estate at the same time, so that's a pretty cool card. But this is probably cooler. So we have the Sacrifice, and this one you'll also trash a card from your hand. If it's an action card, you'll get 2 cards, and you'll get 2 actions. If it's a treasure card, you'll get 2 money. If it's a victory card, you'll get 2 victory tokens. So the Sacrifice is a whole lot better, because if you trash an estate, you're getting 2 victory tokens. That is sweet. That is a sweet, sweet deal, since the estate's only worth 1 victory point anyways. But obviously, if you trash a duchy, or, a duchy won't hurt you too much. But if you trash a province, that'd be a very bad idea. But you could also use this to trash that crumbling castle. That would be useful as well. So, that's it for the 4 costing cards. We have a number of 5 costing cards. Quite a few. So let's get started with them. Alright. So first we have the Wild Hunt, and it is a gathering pile as well. So you'll choose one of these options. You'll either get 3 cards, and you'll add 1 victory token to the Wild Hunt supply pile, or you'll gain an estate. If you do, you'll take the victory tokens from the pile. So that's kind of a cool card. Now, hence, you could get a lot of these victory tokens on this pile here, but if all the estates are gone, which is possible, then they're just going to continue to rack up and no one's going to be getting these victory tokens. But it could be worth getting an estate after there's a couple of victory tokens on this pile. But remember, if you go that route, you're not going to get the 3 cards. So that is the downside to that. It's a pretty cool looking card to boot. That's a pretty cool card, just looking at it. So, but that's kind of an interesting card. Then we have another attack card here. The third attack card that we've gone over. Catapult and Enchantress were the first 2 attack cards we kind of talked about. So this is the third attack card. And this expansion only had three cards that were considered an attack card. Another thing about this expansion is this expansion does not have any reaction cards whatsoever. So if you want to block an attack and you're only playing with this expansion, you're not going to be able to because there are no reactions to block an attack, like Moat, for instance. Alright, so with Legionary, you're going to get 3 treasure. Then you may reveal gold from your hand. If you do, each other player discards down to 2 cards in hand and then draws a card. So it's even stronger than Militia because they have to discard down to 2 cards and then they draw another card, and that card they draw, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good card. They could have to discard, they could have 5 really awesome cards and have to discard down to maybe a gold and an action card that they really like, and then they draw the next card and it's a province. So much more powerful than a Militia for sure. But it only works if you have a gold to reveal from your hand. Otherwise, you're only going to get the 3 treasure when you play this. So it's an attack card that only works, if you actually have a gold to reveal. Then we have the Groundskeeper. And this is definitely one of my favorites. And you get a basic action of a plus card and a plus action. But then while this is in play, when you gain a victory card, you get a victory token. I usually like to hold off and I try to get a bunch of these. And then I like to try to play at least 2 or 3 of them in the same turn. And then I usually always buy a victory card, like an estate or something. So that way I can get a few victory tokens out of the deal. So that's a really cool strategy, and I really like that a lot, the Groundskeeper. So then we have some more 5-costing cards. So let's go over some of them. So we have the Forum. With this one, you'll get 3 cards. You'll get an action, but you'll have to discard 2 cards. You still get an extra card, so that's useful. If you have a lot of victory cards, this is very useful. Then when you buy this, you get a plus buy. So if you have a lot of money when you buy this, you can still buy another card, assuming you have enough money to do so. And assuming you don't have any buys either. Then we have the Charm. This is a treasure. When you play this, choose 1. Plus buy or 2 treasure. Or the next time you buy a card this turn, you may also gain a differently named card with the same cost. This is really useful if you purchase a 5-costing card, and there's a lot of 5-costing cards in the game. You could get 2 5-costing cards out of the deal, but if you go the first route, you might not get that effect. You'll just get 2 treasure and a buy. So the second effect is really useful at times. That's a pretty cool card. Then we have the Capital. Now this one is going to give you 6 treasure. It's going to give you a plus buy. But then when you discard this from play, you'll take 6 debt. And then you may pay off the debt. So if you still have extra money when you play this, after the end of your turn, you can actually pay off the debt right away rather than waiting to your next turn. Assuming you have some money left over. You most likely will not have the additional 6 money left over, but you could have a couple of extra money left over that you didn't use. So that's kind of cool that you'd still get to pay it off after you, after you play this. So that's pretty cool. After you discard this from play, when you discard this from play, you'll take 6 debt, and you'll get to pay some of it off, maybe. So that's pretty cool. Then we have 2 more actions in here that cost 5, so let's go over them. First, we have the Crown, and this is an action treasure card. So you can play this during your action phase or your treasure phase. So that's pretty cool. And it really makes you think twice when you play it, because you also have to look and see what's in your hand when you play this, if you want to decide to play this during your action phase or your treasure phase. So if it's your action phase, you may play an action from your hand twice. That's pretty cool. If you have another action card that you want to play twice, this is really powerful. But there are times when you don't have that option, where you don't have an action card you want to play, or an action card, period. But here's the cool thing. If it's your buy phase, you may play a treasure from your hand twice. So most often, at least, you can play a treasure hand from your hand twice after you play this during your treasure phase, if you go that route instead of the action route. So that's pretty cool. So if you have a silver, or even if it's just copper, that copper basically becomes a silver, and that silver basically is going to give you 4 treasure. Or if you're lucky enough to get a gold, whew, that's even better. So that's really cool. And can you imagine doing this with platinum? Whew, powerful. All right. Then we probably have... Now, there's only 2 durations in this expansion. And so this is Archive, the second duration in this expansion. And this is definitely one of my favorite cards. I might even like it more than Enchantress. So you get an action, plus action. Then you set aside the top 3 cards of your deck face down. You may look at them. Now, and at the start of your next 2 turns, you get to put 1 into your hand. That's kind of a cool card. I like that a lot. That's really cool. You could get a lot of these archives, and you could get a lot of cards at the start of your turn and put them into your hand for several turns. That is a powerful card, and it's definitely one of my favorites. Okay, so in the next video, we'll continue where we left off. We still have to go over events and landmarks. See you guys in the next video.